nice to see you guys. We're so happy to have you. I'm going to be admitting more people, and I'm going to give the floor to my illustrious co-host, Penelope.
I'm so honored to have you all here today, and I so appreciate parents and this journey that we're on. And we just really wanted it to be supportive. You know, we get what it's like in life, and we want you to feel nurtured and supported and have some real practical tools in today's climate. And we just couldn't think of a better person to start us off than Dr. Chan. We love Dr. Edith. I was listening to one of your recent podcasts and how you said, before we even get to education, let's start with what it is to be a human and really understand that and what it is we're here for, you know, and how we can best support ourselves. And I would just love you to share with us what inspires you and what brought you to this place in time.
Oh my goodness. First of all, thank you guys so much for having me. It's such an honor to be with like-minded, inspired, visionary moms, dads, educators. Even though sometimes the going gets tough, you guys know that you are changing reality for humankind. You're changing the landscape of what it means to be human for all the future generations of humans. So I feel almost at a loss for words how moved I am that we get to share this session with you guys, and also just to thank you on behalf of all the future generations of humankind. Thank you guys for the courage to live a life of truth and honesty and integrity and kindness and respect, and say no to coercion, say yes to freedom, say yes to collaboration, say yes to respecting our children and our human brothers and sisters, you know. So yeah, it's a big honor to be here. This question of what it means to be human, I feel like it's kind of the silver lining of these crazy, absurd times, isn't it? It's like you cannot keep just status quoing your life anymore. It's impossible. So it's forced all of us to take a huge step back and ask those deeper questions, like, what is it to be a human? Why did I choose to become a parent? What is education for? What's the difference between being a human versus being a robot in today's world? Because AI is starting to take over a lot of the things that we used to have humans do. So what does it mean to be a human? And who are we? What's our wise, mindful relationship with technology, with nature, with one another? So many questions that we're asking right now. So I know we only have 1 hour together, but I just wanted to plant some of those seeds because this is the first session of an epic 10-session series, or possibly 11, it sounds like. And I thought that what we could do tonight is just to ground ourselves in some of these big picture contexts of this crazy transformational time that we're in, which is inherently challenging, inherently uncomfortable. Like, change comes with inherent discomfort. So I want to honor everybody for having the courage and the physical, mental, emotional fortitude to go through this time of change together. I actually have a slide. I have a slide deck that I can share with you guys if that seems appropriate.
Yeah, that's perfect. You can share your screen. We'd love to see it.
Should we just go for it?
Sure, let's go for it.
Okay, let's see. Okay, can you guys all see my slides? Perfect. So Penelope, just so you know, I think you're muted. I don't know if I couldn't hear you.
Thank you so much. I'm unmuted now. It looks great.
Okay, great. Okay, so I hope you guys can see the screen. I put together a slideshow of some of the key points from my body of work called the Luminous Education Revolution, which is really in response to these crazy times that we've been in the last 3 years. Tons of families started asking us, since we'd been a homeschooling family for some years now, people started asking us, how do you do homeschooling? Should we take the kids out of school? What's that process like? And I realized that what the deeper conversation that I think is serves more of us even more than, oh, should I homeschool? Should I take the kids out of school? How do you do these tools, tactics, and strategies? There's a deeper conversation that I feel that maybe is even more rich and juicy and more impactful and empowering for us to step into. So I know that in these next 9 more sessions, there will be tons of very powerful, inspiring tools, tactics, and strategies. But before we go there, let's talk about the big picture. What's happening on planet Earth? What's happening across humankind? Why are people acting so weird out there, and how do we have the emotional, mental, physical, spiritual fortitude to meet these challenging times? So I thought that this presentation could give us plant some seeds for us to noodle over, because some of the questions that I'm going to be asking you guys, I think could be a lifetime of inquiry, such as, what does it mean to be human? We can sit in meditation on that one question alone for multiple lifetimes, right? So let's get into it. First of all, I want to honor everybody. Thank you for being a visionary, a bringer of change. Thank you for co-creating the more beautiful world. My intention with this presentation is to give us this big picture of the big roadmap ahead so that we can drop into a space of greater clarity and vision and confidence for these rapidly changing times that is so changing so fast. Sometimes we feel dizzy, we feel confused, we feel like sometimes the rug is pulled from underneath us. We don't know how to react or respond to the different situations. So my hope is that by giving this big picture exploration as part of our first session, that it can help ground us in feeling more confident about the big picture patterns at play, so that you can make those bold next moves for your family and discover what is uniquely suited for you and your family, and drop back into the space of greater natural intelligence, tap into your inner genius, tap into your inner intuition, inner clarity, inner brilliance, and inner joy. So that's my intention for tonight. I hope that sounds good. This is a fresh new time, and old systems are crumbling very fast. New systems are arising through inspired, free-thinking, visionary families like yours and like mine. So inherently is going to be uncomfortable, which means that we need to be very gentle with ourselves. We need to be willing to throw away all the rules and dogma and just drop in deeply and listen to our hearts, and be willing to give ourselves permission to sometimes bumble along a little bit, sometimes explore, experiment, try new things, discover a fresh, new, more inspired approach that is birthing through all of our families right now. So before we move on, so I want to invite everybody to sit up nice and tall with me, and because I know for some of us it's late in the evening. Those of you that are East Coasters, thank you so much for joining us at 10 p.m. And even those of us on West Coast, it is almost bedtime for us too. So thank you so much for joining us at this late hour. Let's sit up nice and tall, and all of us take 3 deep breaths together. Go ahead and place your hands over your belly center, and see if you can take all the busy thoughts that might be brewing in your head, let go of those, and drop deeper and deeper and deeper into our belly center. Into this space of feeling centered and rooted within ourselves, tapping back into the space of deep inner confidence, trusting our intuitive knowingness. Let's place our hands over our hearts and breathe with our hearts for 3 breaths. Judy, I think Carrie has quite a bit of background noise. Maybe we can mute her.
I'll do that. Thank you.
Perfect. Good. Now let's take 3 deep breaths to center ourselves in our head, our heart, and our belly. So tapping into all the levels of our intelligence and inner knowingness. Our head, the ability to tap into creative, innovative, fresh new ideas, the ability to vision the more beautiful world that we're entering into. Tap into our heart's love, our heart's intuitive wisdom, and tap into our belly, our inner core vitality, our beingness, our physicality, feeling physically strong, centered, and stable within ourselves, accessing all levels of our being. Good. And now becoming aware of our head, our heart, our belly, our hands, and our feet simultaneously. So go ahead and finish with 3 more deep breaths from your heart center, radiating the authentic, beautiful state of being from the inside out. This vitality, this courage, this inspiration, this intelligence and wisdom that is alive within all of our hearts. Allow that to be the dominating energy for the rest of this call, because there's so much we could be talking about. But on a multidimensional level, I think we already know the answers, don't we? It's just that as we gather as a group of like-minded, like-hearted families, we can level each other up. We can hold and lift each other up, and we can help anchor into the field this more conscious, awake, and aware way of doing parenting, education, family life, and community life together. So it's almost like a formality that I'm gonna trigger maybe some inner memories and inner knowingness within you guys as we go through these slides together. And of course, take what works for you, listen to what resonates, and please throw away what doesn't resonate, because what works for my family and my community here may or may not work for your family and your community. But I hope that even that creates a lot of clarity for you to discover what works, what doesn't, so that you can co-create the most beautiful and perfect path forward for you, your teens, and your family. Does that sound good? So here are the 5 things that I wanted to share tonight as a big picture roadmap of what's happening in the world, so we can anchor ourselves in relaxing into the fact that there is a change that is happening. We're transitioning from an old world to a new world. We're transitioning in terms of our human consciousness, a whole old type of human to a new type of human. How we approach education has to change now. It hasn't worked for a long time, let's admit it. But now it's almost like the new generation of kids, they maybe have different behavior patterns because they're almost practically allergic to some of the old systems and paradigms. And they may not always have the skills, the tools, the words to articulate this feeling of uneasiness, or something doesn't work about this, and that turns into maybe like some rebellion or some behavior patterns. So I think that there's a lot of wisdom is in us listening deeper to our kids, especially our teens, because our teens are so good at calling out the BS. And I think they could be great teachers for us to shed some of the old programming that maybe we have a hard time to shed. And those of you, if we've met each other before, you know that I had an interesting journey of being basically convinced by our kids that they needed to be conceived. And in that whole journey, in my dreams, in my meditations, when they came to convince us that we needed to become parents, the conversation was very much about, look, this new generation of children, we're all blanketing the earth with a new consciousness. And so everything about the old systems, the old education systems, the old paradigms of parenting that you feel uneasy about, which is why you hesitate to even become a parent to begin with, we agree. We're going to come here and break all those systems. So it's like, that sounds nice. It's like kumbaya. We're going to enter into the new earth and create a more beautiful world. But guess what? Now we're in it and it's super messy, isn't it? Right? Like old systems breaking down as we birth new systems, it has to be inherently uncomfortable and messy. So I hope that by grounding us in some frameworks of what are the phases of transition that we are going through, I hope that it helps you to kind of like relax into the somewhat chaotic moments of change that many of us seem like we're going through, to know that there's a vision of where we're actually heading can help us to relax into it and actually maybe dance joyously instead of struggle painfully in this transition, right? Like we can bounce our way joyously into the transition, knowing that it's still uncomfortable, or, you know, we can fight against it. You know, we have that choice. And sometimes it's just easier if we know where we're going to just breathe deeply and relax as we transition. Part 4, talking about this deeper inquiry. Again, this who are we? What does it mean to be human? These deeper questions that I'm going to probably leave you as homework after today's session to sit together with your family, with your teens, with your spouse, and with your community. Some of you guys are creating educational pods and communities. It's a beautiful session to sit together as a community of conscious, awake, aware parents and educators to ask these deeper questions and really re-architect our ideas of parenthood and education and community building, grounded in a deeper, richer, more soulful understanding of what it means to be human. And then as a side effect of that, I think a lot of the tools, tactics, and strategies, the right action can arise naturally from this deep inner knowingness. So a lot of what's happening in this session and in general in our lives is a realignment with the deeper essence of who we are, and the shedding of some old structures and ways of doing things that wasn't really working anyway, but now there's this forcing function. You know, with everything changing so fast, we're forced to ask these questions now, and ultimately, as uncomfortable as it is, I think it's a really good thing. And finally, if we have time, I'll just share a few things about, as a consciousness coach, meditator, and a professional holistic healer, I tend to be a very sensitive, intuitive person. I can see energy patterns, and I'd like to share with you what I've observed with this new generation of kids that are very sensitive. They actually have multidimensional awareness. They're seeing way more than maybe they have the words to articulate. So I'd like to share with you maybe a little bit more like from their perspective, all the layers of perception that these multidimensional new children are tapping into, so that as moms, dads, and educators, we can nurture them and support them. And if they look like they have system overload sometimes, if they look like they're processing way too much and they get overwhelmed and cranky and stressed out and you don't know what just happened, maybe after what I share with you, a lot of that would get harmonized in your family, and just it becomes we can be more intimate and close with our children again. And that's my hope and my dream for all of us, is that we have healthy, happy families. We have rich, beautiful, intimate, rewarding relationships with our kids. So are you ready to step through the portal? Yes.
Yay.
I'd like to share.
Yes.
Yes. Thank you. Thank you for unmuting. I like hearing your voices, you guys. So the first thing I'd like to share is this. Have you guys heard of something called cymatics?
No, I have not.
Okay, cymatics is the study of how frequencies and sound patterns interact with physical reality to change the orientation of physical reality. So there's a body of scientists that do all these scientific experiments of basically vibrating different frequencies, sometimes audible sound frequencies, sometimes beyond our human audible frequencies, and see how that interacts with a physical medium and changes how physical reality orients itself. You guys believe that our world is made of energy? Yes, or you have experienced it yourself, right?
Yes.
So if our physical reality is fueled by energetic frequency patterns, then the energy that we emanate in our homes and in our communities is going to change how it manifests into physical reality. Add to that, the planet is going through a transformation. Human consciousness is going through transformation, and the planet is in a different part of the galaxy, and there's coronal mass ejections from the sun. There's all kinds of frequency activities at play, which is causing a huge change in how our human society operates and how human beings interact with each other. So I want you to keep in mind this cymatics thing. Let's see. Maybe I can play this YouTube video. Let's stop share screen and share. Let's see if I can share. Sorry about that. I pulled up a YouTube video a second ago. I can just pull it up again.
Awesome.
Yeah. Here we go.
Matter.
Okay, let me go back to share screen. Thank you for your patience. Share screen. So this is a simple YouTube video that you guys can find if you look up Cymatics full documentary. It's an old documentary, but it's really, really good. It's like what landed this whole idea of frequency and energetic patterns into our kind of like, you know, pop culture consciousness, you can say. So here are the scientists. Can you guys hear my sounds? I think when I share, here we go. Share sound too.
Great.
Oh, huh. Okay.
Took shape.
There you go.
Please watch carefully.
So as the frequency changes, boom, there's a
We can
new
also use
physical
different
reality
shaped
that
plate.
emerges. You see that? So I want you to imagine that you are one grain of sand on that plate, known as planet Earth, say, and the energetic frequency patterns are changing. And so there's a reorientation. Some of us just suddenly feel this call in our hearts to move cities or move states, or sometimes there's heartbreaks and heartaches when it comes to changing relationships. But it's just kind of what's happening for all of us right now. So I think we could imagine ourselves being one of those little grains of sand going, I'm not going to change. I'm not going to change. It's like hopeless, right? Or we can just breathe and joyfully align with the new energies that's emerging and discover where's the most beautiful, joyful, fulfilling place in the new orientation, in the new paradigm that we want to bounce our way into joyfully. Like we can struggle our way into it, or we can dance our way into it joyfully with clarity and with love in our hearts. You know, that's the choice that we have right now. So let me share screen again. The transition, if I can loosely summarize it, is not that we're bouncing back and forth between leftists and rightists. Like the whole left-right paradigm, I think we're yo-yoed back and forth for enough years to realize that maybe there's a new, a better way to organize our society beyond all of this political divisiveness. You know, aren't you guys so fatigued, burnt out from all the divisiveness and arguing about politics and arguing about jabs and arguing about like whether or not your body belongs to you and all of this? It's just like, come on, you know? So I think what's happening is that there is, we've outgrown the old consciousness. we've burned out from it. This idea of separation and divisiveness and war and conflict and competition and control and coercion and forcing people, and this misunderstanding that caring about the greater good equals one size fits allness. It's just silly, you know, this rigid, artificial kind of reality with artificially contrived scarcity, this stressful energy that's so unsustainable is depleting. It burns you out. And frankly, eventually it's self-destructive. It's kind of killing itself right now. It's not sustainable. The beauty is that if we've burned out from it, then we're forced to surrender. We're forced to find a way that's more sustainable. And we discover that the new energy that's emerging through a lot of our communities is one of peace and harmony, is one of collaboration, working together respectfully, finding the higher win-win, is one of being more flowing, honoring, allowing, is one of respecting natural diversity. You know, and that's not just diversity in terms of size and shape and gender and skin color and all these superficial, silly things. It's diversity of thought, diversity of talents, diversity of gifts, everybody bringing their absolute highest A game to play, and each of us collaborating and co-creating the magic and the synchronicity that arises through us when each person in a community brings their very best self into the situation, right? Celebrating the strength in that kind of diversity, a natural flow of abundance, a generous, regenerative, nurturing, sustainable, life-giving, life-nurturing, life-enhancing kind of energy. That's the new energy pattern that is arising through our communities right now. And so I want to just anchor us in thinking about this when it comes to our parenting game and how we do education, how we raise our teens. Notice if your teens start to rebel or get cranky or behave in ways that isn't their best self, we can say, is it because they're rebelling against something that is from this old energy? Because I believe, and I've witnessed, that a lot of our kids are naturally aligning with this new energy, and they haven't cultivated the maturity and skillfulness to articulate quite yet that something doesn't feel right. And if they behave in a way or they're upset about something, is it because this is a heartbreaking pattern of energy to be around if you're a sensitive soul? That really, on the deepest level, your soul is programmed to align with this kind of energy. So if you guys would like to take some notes, to just, a little post-it notes to remind, because in the heat of the moment, when everybody is like cranky and upset and all of that, it's hard for us to take a deep breath and say, oh, okay, maybe there's a new way that we can relate with each other as families and communities. To break it down further, there's this old human consciousness and new human consciousness. The old human has a rigid worldview, see things black and white, is oriented towards 3D physical material reality, and that we think that our consciousness is just a byproduct of our brain, and we only honor like the old school intellectual IQ type of intellect, but we don't realize that the new human is very holistic, nuanced, multidimensional. It sees way past the 3D. It has access to left brain, right brain, heart, body, mind, spirit, all the levels. It relates to this idea of intelligence in a much more holistic, multidimensional way, like physical intelligence, mental intelligence, spiritual intelligence, intuitive intelligence, being street smart, tapping into kindness, compassion, our empathy, our sensibilities, our sensitivities, tapping into this inner compass of feeling when we feel the joy and peace and love in our hearts and when we don't. This new human operates in a different way. It's kind of like a whole different kind of human. The old human used to default to things like forcefulness, pushiness, coercion. We thought that to get things done, we needed some kind of top-down authoritarian control paradigm. We thought that external experts knew best. And so we had this outside in orientation, such as like, well, I guess like whatever the health department said, I'll just follow along. I know that we can joke about it because nobody here is going to get offended by, listening to the TV tell you what to do and, what to inject into your body and all this kind of stuff. Like the old human had all of these qualities. The new human is not into forcefulness and pushiness. We're into being mutually honoring and respectful of each other. We're into, collaborating and co-creating. We have this inside out orientation instead of an outside in orientation. Like we might learn from all the experts out there, but ultimately we check in with our inner guidance system, our inner compass to see what's right for us and what's not right for us. And we take full personal responsibility. We're tapped into our inner authority. We may sometimes still do the blame game, but we check ourselves. We're like, okay, I need to take personal responsibility in this situation, So sometimes we teeter-totter between the old and the new, but on the whole, this new way is just a more beautiful way of being an authentic, deeply aligned, strong, centered, sovereign human being. The old human looked at success in terms of material gains. The new human looks at success in terms of inner qualities of joy, of peace, of fulfillment. So my question is, when it comes to our parenting game, our education paradigm, can you see that we're needing to transition now? All the tools, tactics, and strategies that we're going to learn in the next 9 or 10 sessions are from this consciousness. And they will call out some of the old patterns, and old patterns do die hard sometimes. So sometimes it's so educational and helpful for us to work together as a community to catch each other falling back into old patterns and realizing that there's a much more joyful and beautiful way of doing things as families and communities.
Beautiful.
To break this down even further, please raise your hands if you know about Dr. David Hawkins's map of consciousness scale. Great, awesome. So for those that are new to this idea, Dr. David Hawkins is a pioneer in the study of human consciousness and its physical effect in physical reality. This idea, you've probably heard the quote, like, you cannot solve a problem from the level of consciousness that created it, right? So in order for us to solve I think Einstein supposedly said that, if there's a problem that you're encountering, the habit that we need to create is, oh, what was the consciousness that created that problem? And what can I do to level up my consciousness, see the situation from new eyes, from a fresh perspective, in order to make the problem obsolete, in order for the natural solution to arise from a new consciousness? And I know that you've heard all these words, but I want to encourage you to really sink into, in terms of parenting, education, building curriculum for the new children, all this stuff. There are some people that have done muscle testing and different ways of calibrating and have found that this new generation of children, many of them are incarnating at 300, 400, 500, 600 levels of consciousness. Like that's just where they are already. Like they start off at 300 or 400 and they're going to go into 500, 600, 700 within their lifetime. Whereas those of us who are adults, we're still, kind of lagging behind. So let me just break down this map of consciousness. Dr. David Hawkins has discovered that when you are in shame, guilt, apathy, grief, fear, it's not a very powerful state to be. It's not a very effective, efficacious place to do anything, including parenting or educating our children, right? Whereas if we get up to 200, like anger, you can see how anger is more powerful than shame, but it's still not that powerful compared to courage. So if you encounter someone that's angry, allow them to feel the anger and hold space for them to move up into pride and quickly into courage. Because Dr. David Hawkins discovered once you get up to 200, the level of courage, now you're in power. Now you are going to make things happen. Anything below 200 is always going to be like like an uphill battle, pushing through molasses to get things done, which is why these so-called finger quotes, like huge finger quotes, powerful elites, they call them. They're actually super not powerful, because anybody that does things from coercion, force, mandating people, being pushy like that, that actually comes from these very low levels. Like guilt, people were being guilted into doing things, medical procedures and things. That's from a 30 consciousness. So the more pushy and coercive somebody is, we can take a step back and be like, oh, okay, they're coming from a very weak, powerless place. That's why they have to be so pushy. People that come from love are naturally laid back and allowing and respectful, and things just happen through synchronicities for them. They naturally attract beautiful outcomes and beautiful opportunities, right? So Dr. David Hawkins found that when you get up to 500, there's another big leap that happens in terms of how powerful and efficacious you are in getting things to happen in the world. So this is actually not a linear scale. This is actually what's called a logarithmic scale. So if you see 100, the real number is 10 to the 100th power. If you see 200, the real number is actually 10 to the 200th power. If you see 500, the real number is 10 to the 500 power. You see, it would be like way too many zeros to actually fit on the page. And that's why he made it a logarithmic scale instead of a linear scale. To illustrate what that really means is that one person who is at a 300 consciousness, which is like between neutrality and willingness, is as powerful and as effective as 90,000 people who are in the sub 200 consciousness. So sub 200 is what Dr. David Hawkins calls force instead of power. One person at 400 is as effective, as powerful as 400,000 of the other ones' negativity in the sub 200. So I know that a lot of times we get worried, right? Because you're like, oh my God, we're in the minority. Why aren't other people seeing all the absurdity? Am I the only one that sees through all the BS that's happening? I'm all alone. Well, guess what? It doesn't take that many of us to tip the scales because of this map of consciousness. One person who is at 500, which is the level of love and compassion, is as effective as 750,000 of the other people's negativity. One of you living from the space of love, operating from the space of love and compassion is as potent, as powerful as 750,000 people who are living in the negativity of anger and fear and shame and guilt and all those things. And then if you get to enlightenment type level, 700 counterbalances one person at 700, counterbalances 70 million people out there who are living in the sub 200 consciousness. So I want you to sit or stand real tall and recognize that, wow, one of me could be 750,000 of the other ones that are just kind of like robotically following orders out there. All right, there is hope for the future. Now, for the children, many of us have children that are already at the 400, 500 plus level consciousness. Can you imagine putting an expansive, infinite cosmic being, such as your child, into a school system that operates at this level of consciousness, 30, 40, 50, say? It's literally soul crushing. It's so utterly inappropriate. So if they rebel and get cranky and upset about it once in a while, can we meet them with some understanding? You know, I believe the call for us adults is, what can we do to reestablish and re-architect the entire parenting paradigm, community paradigm, educational paradigm, so that it's actually fitting for these 500, 600 level consciousness souls that are coming into the planet right now? That's the challenge that we're being issued with in today's world. Everything is changing. health, medicine, career, economics, relationship, media, entertainment, governance, society, education. So today we're specifically talking about education and parenting, but how we do one thing is how we do everything. And I think all the systems are going to have to be re-architected based on this new consciousness. How are you guys doing? Are you guys resonating with this?
Absolutely. Thank you.
Beautiful. It's
Yeah.
wonderful,
you.
Dr. Edith. And I just wanted to say that we are nearing the 7:45 mark, and I'm not sure how everybody is with time. And I know we wanted to leave some time for Q&As with you since it's so special to be with you. So I just wanted to let you know that.
Okay, great. So how about I present until like a few minutes before 8 and we can do Q&A? Does that? Yeah.
Sounds great.
Good.
Good
How
for
does
you,
that work
Penelope?
for everybody? How does that work for our audience? I really want to make sure you have some time to ask your questions. Can
Good.
everybody?
I think if they go over a little, it's okay.
Okay, great.
Mhm.
Thank you so much.
I agree.
Okay, great. Thank you. So the roadmap for education, I feel that I found it really helpful. You know, my background is like so many of you guys, multifaceted, and I have a degree from my undergrad in applied mathematics, and I used to work as an engineer and a program manager in software before I just switched everything and became a holistic hippie healer for the last 20 plus years. And that is my gift of distilling a huge amount of content into frameworks and patterns that I hope makes it easy for everybody else to understand. So I've really observed the educational landscape and distilled it down to basically 6 phases of transition that I think we're going through. And I'll be kind of brief with this because I could spend a whole hour on this one slide alone. What's happening right now is that the default in the past was, well, you know, you have a kid and you get a 9-to-5 job, and so somebody else has to watch your kids. So from Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, while I'm at work slaving away as a wage laborer, I guess I don't really have a choice. Everybody else just puts their kids in a public school system, which, you know, I know that every parent out there is doing the best with the options they have available. And I know that is none of the audience in this community where you're just defaulting into putting your kid in the public school. You've thought deeply about what's the best option that's available for your child. And it may be that at this moment, you actually have a decent public school in your local area that you feel comfortable with, knowing that when better options emerge, you'd probably jump ship too. So I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about the status quo default. I don't even ask any questions, just like you just give your child to strangers Monday through Friday and just like hand your child off to a system to raise them for you without any question. Well, a huge leap happens when we start to ask questions. And these last 3 years, tons of people started asking questions. That's the beauty. And a lot of people started saying, like, for a long time now, maybe Waldorf or Montessori or charter or alternative styles of school. Waldorf's more holistic, has a more spiritual and nature-oriented approach. Montessori respects the pacing of the child's development and has multi-sensory different ways of learning, not just sit there, memorize and regurgitate. There's all these alternative styles of schools that a lot of people are resonating with. And can you see that's already a huge leap of consciousness from default, everybody just give your child to a stranger to raise Monday through Friday to, you know what, let's think about what's the best option available. Let's find a more holistic one that's more respectful and honoring of our child's unique gifts and pacing in life. Wonderful. Well, 2 or 3 years ago, we started seeing that some Waldorf schools were asking questions and some just were robotically following orders too. The shock and surprise. I thought the Waldorf people all were trained to think holistically and from Rudolf Steiner's philosophies and asking those deeper questions. And wow, it turns out that if I give my child to a system, ultimately it is still a system. And a lot of people in that system aren't, free thinking and asking questions and, you know, like willing to go out on a limb to do what's best for my child. So then a lot of people started saying, maybe I'll just have to pull my kid out of school. I don't know how to homeschool. So I'm just going to download a curriculum. At least they're not making my child be indoctrinated into being afraid of their own bodies and confused and propagandized into political agendas that I may or may not agree with. All these things that have been happening in the school systems, but it just really became very amplified in these last 2 or 3 years. A lot of parents said, I don't know how to homeschool, but anything is going to be better than that. I'm going to find the courage in my heart to just try it out. So we take the kid out of the school and we download a curriculum. And my good friend, David James Rodriguez, he calls it school at home, which is like, you're still following a curriculum, but at least now you discover, wow, who are we when we can sleep until our bodies are well rested? Who are we when we can pee-pee and poo-poo at the perfect time and eat a snack when we're hungry and all this stuff? And you discover my child can learn so much better if they can just be well rested and well slept, if they can eat when they're hungry, if they don't have to ask permission to, go to the bathroom, or if they want to spend 2, 3, 4, 5 hours doing this science project, they have the freedom to schedule their day like this. And we can do English when they feel like doing English, and we can pace ourselves in the right way. It's a game changer. Gradually, though, a lot of families start to be like, well, this curriculum feels kind of rigid. I'm discovering that some parts of this curriculum we downloaded works for my child, some of it doesn't work. And now I got to like run a business and cook and clean and do laundry and clean up the house. And then I got to sit at the kitchen table and crack my whip and do these workbooks with my child. It's mathematically impossible. So then people start asking deeper questions and saying, maybe I should let my child take the lead more and more. And so then we jump into phase 4 and 5, where we discover this thing called child-led, interest-led, self-directed learning, also known as unschooling, where we throw away the schooly paradigm and we discover that we can learn and grow all the time in many diverse and flexible ways. But in order to do that, we have to deprogram and deschool and let go of a lot of the old patterns and programs from our upbringing in the school system. Different people deschool at different paces. A lot of children naturally, once they're given the chance, they discover, wow, I'm free to do the projects and have those educational experiences and to learn and grow and do all the fun things that I've always been passionate about. Other kids take longer time to realign with that inner compass of joy and interest and passion. The general consensus out there, and I'd like to question this, I think it's a huge range, but the general consensus is to please allow at least 1 month per year that your child was in the school system to let their system decompress and to allow that joy and passion and that sparkle in their eye to come back out to play again, because they were, they had to kind of contort and distort themselves to fit into the paradigm of the school system, where it's like, now you do math, ding, now you do English, ding, now you do history, ding. And so it's like, wow, who am I if I'm free to actually learn and grow at my own pace based on my own passions? So are you guys following? Phase 1, 2, 3, they're each very different. But I'd say on the whole, all 3 of those are kind of extrinsically motivated, externally driven ways of teaching our kids. Phase 4 and 5 now is tapping into the intrinsic motivation for learning and growth. It's internally driven. Our children are being nurtured and supported to be self-directed, self-responsible human beings. It's actually a very different paradigm. And it requires all of us adults to do a ton of inner work to realize that we don't own our children. We don't get to order them around. We don't get to be like, sit down, shut up, go to your room, and all this stuff. If we want them to become self-responsible, solid, self-directed human beings that are in touch with their inner compass and intuition and inner joys and passions. After we all stabilize in this for a while, I honestly don't know anybody that wants to do that alone. We want to do that in a community. So when we all get sorted out and recognize that each child is the boss of their own lives, and we adults, moms, dads, educators, we can all come together as communities to bring our unique A game to play, like our unique gifts and skills and talents. What's happening, and I know some of you guys are in communities like this, moms, dads, educators, and kids, especially our teens, are able to express like, hey, I want to learn this. I want to contribute in this way. I want to do this kind of learning experience. Can I get some support? Who else can I do this with? And so what arises is what looks like homeschool enrichment programs, but getting really fancy now into what is like a school that's not a school, schools where the kids are self-directed and self-responsible, but we mix together a lot of learning modalities as a village. And so the learning and education experience is contiguous with the community and the village life and the family life. It's all part of the same kind of like contiguous new way of doing life that is emerging through our communities. So there's the families, the communities, the learning village. That's the term I really love, that where each individual is respected as a self-directed, self-responsible human being, and together we collaborate and co-create the new experiences. In the interest of time, let me jump to this. In these new learning experiences, what's emerging is threads of wisdom from previous holistic or alternative learning models, but arising in a new way that's in alignment with this new consciousness that is birthing through our kids and our families and so on. So no longer are we going to learn based on sit down, shut up, memorize, regurgitate, and take an exam. It's actually really cool what's happening. We can learn through inquiry and contemplation and discussion. We have flexible play-based learning. We have hands-on project-based learning. Of course, we can still take advantage of academic, book, didactic type of learning. We learn at home. We learn in school. We do community classes and workshop. We have rich, intimate relationships with the adults in the community so we can debrief, and we have mentors that we can talk with and debrief our day-to-day experience. We are good at articulating what we're experiencing, and we tap into imagination and creativity, setting our intentions, daydreaming, night dreaming, tapping into insight, intuition, all those multidimensional gifts and abilities. And when we're struggling, we come together as communities. We're not afraid of each other's bodies. We give each other's hugs. We co-regulating, and we enter into co-resonance with each other because we're so aware of energies now in this new paradigm. We recognize that everybody brings beautiful energies into the community, and we can co-regulate and co-resonate into a more intelligent way of being a human. So some of the questions that I wanted to invite you guys to consider that I think would be a whole separate talk by itself are these questions. These deeper questions that I think if we can get clear within ourselves, a lot of the tools, tactics, and strategies that the presenters that are going to come in the rest of the series, I think will land in a different way after doing some of this soul searching inquiry work. Like, who am I and what is the purpose of this life? How do I define success? How does my family define success? If I ask my teen, how would they answer this question? What do I value in this life? And what does my teen value in this life? If I ask them, what does it mean to be a human? And what do you think is the difference between a human and a robot in today's world? Rich, profound conversations can birth out of this. What's the goal and purpose of education? And how do we define intelligence? Intelligence way beyond just IQ and of course EQ, but spiritual intelligence, intuitive intelligence, body intelligence, being street smart. I have a list of these somewhere that I started, but you know, yeah, spatial intelligence, nature intelligence, intuitive intelligence. And out of an inquiry like this, then what comes out is a whole new set of curriculum that includes math, but maybe math learning, vortex math, sacred geometry, reading, writing, language arts, yes, all of those, but the new science, the new biology based on light, frequency, resonance, consciousness, the new science of water, looking at terrain-based approach to health, not just the germ theory, looking at the true history, civics, and law, learning how to stand in our natural, unalienable rights, all of that kind of stuff that is so alive in our communities these days. Music, arts and crafts, playful fun, movement, sports, yoga, breath work, qigong, martial arts, taking beautiful care of our health, nature connection, gardening, growing food, permaculture, first aid, wilderness, entrepreneurship skills, finance, business skills, the wise use of technology, sacred sexual energy, the sacred and wise and conscious use of our sexual energy, a huge topic, the right use of power, money, fame, and sex, time management, project management, learning world cultures, mind mastery, resilience, consciousness, meditation, dream work, all these kinds of things becomes the new curriculum that is birthing through our communities now. And so I want to finish just with a quick note about this new generation of kids that are more sensitive, awake, aware. I call them Luminous Kids, which is, they are human just like us, but a lot of our children are tapped into multidimensional awareness. And so they're processing a huge amount of data all the time. And so very often we might notice that they have basically sensory and circuitry overload. They're able to tap into subtle energetics at play in a room and in a situation that maybe you and I aren't always aware of. And so they might act out, so to speak, sometimes. And so our job is to realize that they are tapping into something that maybe we're blind to, and to create the safe space to ask, like, hey, what's going on there, honey? What do you think? And become aware, like rewind the scenario. What led up to that moment? What was the bigger context, not just physically, but energetically? And if I can break it down, like our teens have always had really good BS meters, but this new generation of kids, they're checking things like, are you in coherence and integrity in terms of what you say with what you do? Are you doing things in a way that is based on fear or coercion? Or are you doing it from joy and love? They're really sensitive to that. Such as, hey, we should not eat too much junk food, too much sugar, all this stuff. It's like, are you approaching it from a space of, we want to eat healthy, vibrant, high vibe foods because we want to be healthy and vibrant, or because I don't want to get sick, I don't want to get sick, I don't want to get cancer, I don't want to blah, 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 because sugar is going to kill you, and like all this stuff, right? So they're very sensitive to the energy and consciousness that underlies all of this. And then all of this, is this in alignment with their pure source connection, the higher laws and the natural law, the universal law? They're tapping into all of these different levels. And if any of it is out of integrity, it feels like the energy is not in alignment and they don't feel right with it. And they might react or respond in a certain way. And we're not always aware of these distortion patterns that's happening in the energy. And if they are, we can actually encourage them to become articulate teachers of this new multidimensional reality, to teach us to level up so that we can all ultimately expand into new human possibilities and become a more pure, expansive, undistorted, more aligned version of what it means to be human. So I think that's the opportunity that we have with our young people today, especially with our teens. And just, yeah, let's humble ourselves that our children are bringing these abilities that are orders of magnitude beyond what previous generations had. And it allows us to do a lot of inner work and heal old patterns and step into a much more beautiful way of being human. So these kinds of conversations, I know I had to rush a little bit today, resonates with you. I have this beautiful 18-session journey that you can pace yourself and go into deep, juicy inquiry and contemplation on some of these topics with a world-class panel of teachers and wisdom keepers and innovators. And I hope I get to invite some of you guys to be on the panel next year for this upcoming new season for my next one. But this recent 18 session is very deep and juicy. We explore ancient wisdom, future vision, holistic education, homeschooling, self-directed learning, village building, awakened parenthood, the inner work and the outer work of building new communities. And if you use this link, luminousrevolution.com/wow, this 18-session journey has a sliding scale tuition model to support everybody depending on where finances are at with your family. And half of the tuition goes back to supporting WOW and the beautiful work that Judy and Deb and all of you guys are doing. And the other half is going to support me in building the new platform of Luminous Education, where we can actually use technology in a wise, intentional way to connect like-minded freedom communities that are birthing these new paradigm education solutions all across the planet to collaborate, co-create, and cross-pollinate to find each other and help each other out and support each other. I'd love your support if that resonates with you. And yeah, let's continue the conversation. Here's how you can keep in touch with me. Hello at dredithubuntu.com. And this is my personal website. And this is the Luminous Education Revolution website.
So beautiful. My goodness. Thank you, Dr. Edith. Penelope, come. It wasn't that phenomenal. Thank you.
That was beautiful. And I think for me, networking is where it's at, really knowing, I like to say we are in this transitionary period. And I know sometimes it can feel alone, and just hearing these words and knowing that these other people exist, I think is that next step, right? So we can draw upon others' knowledge as well and other support. And when we feel overwhelmed, there's somebody else out there that is carrying that torch and they're like, you've got this, you can do it, and you can do it. You know what I mean? And how you also talk, I think, about letting go of thinking that it has to all be perfect and that you have to know exactly what the model is going to look like, and really allowing yourself to deschool and allow them to see what the natural inspiration, where that lies. And that actually is one of the deepest learnings we can probably do.
Thank you for saying that. That's one of the biggest topics, is our fear of making mistakes is actually a result of the old parenting paradigm and the old education paradigm. So when that arises, that freak out mode, like, oh my God, I'm doing it wrong, I'm going to ruin my child's life. It's like, oh, okay, that's a result of the old education system. Thank you, fear, pain body. I see you, I love you. Let's heal you, and let's joyfully and curiously discover what is the fresh new way that wants to birth through my family right now. Let me allow my child to take the lead and talk with them and share transparently, like, hey, mama or papa has this, like, I get worried about this. Let's talk about it. Let's just make friends with our fear and move through it as families and communities.
Beautiful. Shall we open it up to questions, Penelope and Dr. Edith?
Yes.
I'm going to ask everybody to unmute. And before we leave, I do want to tell you about our next speaker, who's right up there. Penelope's talking on the 21st of March. So for now, I'm asking everybody to unmute and just raise your hand, and we can call on you. I'm going to look and see. We're going to have a
Looks like
gallery.
Leon has his hand.
Okay, Leon, please. We'll get you next, Kat.
Dr. Edith, I just want to thank you so much. I was sitting here just a breath of relief. Just real quickly, I don't have a question, but I have a quick comment. I just want to say that finally, spirituality and science are beginning to merge, beginning to see this beautiful bridge. The things that we have been teaching in New Thought for years and years and years and years is now being proven by you social scientists. So I just want to thank you so much. And I look forward to working with you and with your work. So thank you.
Yeah, and this is a time through parenthood that spirituality has to move into physical action.
Thank you.
Yeah.
And
So
we'll do it by working with you for sure.
yeah, I can feel that your beautiful heart. I know you're doing amazing work in your community.
Thank you.
Yeah.
And Kat, you had a question?
Yeah, so I'm a child advocate in my area. I retired in 2021 to get into the fight, just so talk about the fight. And so I've been kind of on that side of it, just at the school board meetings, trying to bring awareness, speak up for the children because they have no voice. And I have been looking for a forum of some type that because obviously what's happening in the school system needs to completely crumble to the ground. You've already got President Trump calling for the Department of Education to crumble, and it needs to, because it is evil at the very top tier levels. There is just evil in this. And so I'm excited about this because I started homeschooling my son in the 9th grade. He's in the 10th grade this year, so this is my 2nd year. And exactly the process that you explained, I bought the homeschool package first, and I got all the books and I paid the whole thing. And then this year we cut out most of it. And I started at 9 a.m. before, and now it's so different now. We've kind of grown into this groove, and he tells me in the last 2 years, he's learned 3 times more than he's learned all through school. Just by having that ability to, and he's so emotionally mature. He's one of those students you're talking about. He's musically and emotionally so mature for 15. So I just want to encourage everybody, right now, I encourage people to take their kids out as soon as possible as a child advocate, because these kids, they're treated horribly in school. It's terrible. And we do need to get out of this old paradigm and into an alternative one that's going to actually grow them into being their best selves. And we didn't get that. I didn't get that. And a lot of us didn't get that in school. School is horrible. And I always knew school was horrible, but it's okay. We're starting to see now, we're all waking up, and our children are going to benefit from this. So it's really, really exciting.
Yes.
And I have onennewearth.org, where I'm become part of a movement to save the world. Part of that, a big part of it is the children.
Absolutely.
That's why I'm here. So I'm really excited about this.
We're so happy you're here, Kat. Yes, I've got 3 other participants. So
yes,
I'm going to.
Kat, if you'd like to chat separately, you have my email, hello@dredithubuntu.com. This New Earth community sounds really interesting, and I'd love to connect more. Yeah.
I'll reach out to you afterwards.
Thank you so much, Kat. Amanda, please unmute.
Amanda's still muted.
Amanda, if you could unmute.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, we can.
Yeah, awesome. Thank you so much for this. This has been really great. I actually listened to a similar talk, I think, from you before, and it's just like so reaffirming to so much of like where I've gone in the last few years, especially. I have a son, and he's 16, and he's just like in such a freeze state. He's definitely one of those kids that you were talking about. And I think and my question is, I'm looking for some words of wisdom, because he is, we took him out of school sort of in grade 8, more or less, or he took himself out of school, and we were supportive of that. And grade 9, we unschooled him, and I just said, no, he doesn't have to do like any curriculum. I just knew right away, like we just need to settle his nervous system. And he's in grade 10, he's looking for more, but it's like he wanted to try school again. So he wanted to try school, and it was hard. The problem is when he's at home, he's not like we're giving him so many different opportunities to access information and to talk with, there's just so much stuff out there, and we're being really gentle about it. And he's just like, he's having a hard time connecting with what's meaningful for him. And so he's finding himself like on the internet a lot. And so there's this balance between like, how much we say, okay, well, the internet goes off at 10 o'clock. And because I've seen other kids that are in similar situations, and then they spend hours and hours and hours and hours on the internet. And it's really difficult to be able to, because I feel like we've got to this place and we kind of recognize, yeah, school was pretty tough for him and he got bullied and targeted, and we gave him all the tools, and now we're in a situation that's, yeah, it's just a really hard place to figure out. He's in this transition stage now where we're like, okay, and we've taken graduation off the table. We've taken everything. Like I said, it's not, those things are not important to us, but what we'd like is for you to find your passion. We'd like you to find what brings you joy. And so
given the time, I don't love, Judy, if I can just speak what's on my heart. I don't love that we have to abruptly end in 2 minutes. I'm sorry, there's so much for us to uncover together. I'm just gonna throw this option out there. I want to respect all of you mamas and papas that have to go to sleep soon. And at the same time, I'm happy to open a new line just for conversations like this. I won't go to sleep for another couple of hours, so I'm
Well, what
happy
we
to
could
stay on
do
for like half an hour more, or just
we
to
could
have
do-
these conversations.
Potentially, Dr. Edith and Penelope and Beverly, let me know your thoughts on this. I have to leave here in about 5 or 10 minutes, but I can leave the Zoom on, I can leave the recording on, and I won't be here, but you can continue. And Penelope, how does that sound to you and Beverly?
I would love to be a part of this. I'm actually with a child. I am a tutor, and the child is waiting for me. And so I do need to go, but I have a 19-year-old son. He turns 19 tomorrow. And I would just love to be a part of this because I supported, I really felt the teens' hearts and pain and sadness over the last 3 years. And so we created this teen group and these regular potlucks. And it was, we really need to create this network to come together because it's really real, right? Like these are all beautiful ideas that we want to do. And it's also super overwhelming to do this. And I know it can be, but it is within our capacity. And I think once we jump in and start letting go and join with others, it becomes a lot easier, And so I have to say goodbye, but I really want to get we'll do another email blast and we'll connect everybody and keep together and we'll grow and grow and grow our network. Maybe we can even get a mentoring thing going for the teams. You know what I mean?
I just want to share my screen really quickly before I leave. I just wanted everybody to know that our dear Penelope Sullivan is going to be speaking about the vital child, what does it mean to be truly healthy? What are the roots of disease? She's going to talk about the vital child, and it's going to be fantastic on March 21st, same time, same bat channel. Penelope, do you want to say anything?
Sure. It's going to be, we're talking about terrain theory. So Dr. Edith, you would love it. We're going to be doing your, expanding sciences and really get to the root of what is disease and what is health and what are symptoms and what do we do with them. And so I think it's going to be a really fun and exciting talk.
I know it will be.
Yeah, I love hearing you. I love seeing everybody's faces, and I hope we can all connect again. We want to make this very doable for everybody.
Absolutely.
I'm happy to stay on for 20 more minutes.
Okay, that's great. I think that's doable, definitely.
Yeah.
Okay, great.
Okay. So the mama that was talking, there she is, Amanda. One thing that I hope I did a decent job getting across in my presentation is that our world tends to draw our attention towards the superficial 3D appearances of things versus this new way of orienting to life as human beings and how we relate to our children is the deeper energy and the consciousness and the intention behind what we do, which actually is what drives the results that we get in life. And so with regards to technology, that's like a huge topic. I think it's much more about checking in with ourselves. Are we having these conversations with our teens and kids from a space of fear or control, or what is it? What's the energy underneath the thing? Because it almost doesn't matter what you do, but it matters hugely the energy and the intention and the consciousness and the attitude that we bring into these conversations. And at the end of the day, something that works this month is not going to work the next month. So these ideas of having like, we're going to turn off the technology at this time, like maybe, I mean, as long as it comes from a space of the family all having a conversation and we come to a collective collaborative agreement about it, then that feels like the kind of parenting that I think we can all resonate with. But if it comes from a pressure, coercion, I know that you're not that kind of mom, right? But I just want to encourage you to see that you're already doing the right thing, because you're bringing a beautiful heart into the relationship with your kid, and the conversation is alive. And in our household, it just is a constant conversation. Like, hey, honey, I noticed that when we're on the screens this much, like it doesn't feel good in my body. And I noticed that you're kind of like cranky and cross-eyed, and we need to go get some fresh air. Let's go get some fresh air and sunshine. Let's plan our day together. How much longer do you have with that video or that game or that online course or whatever you're doing? Like, can we convene in 15 minutes and go outside and go to the trails? You know, and so just the part of it is like the crowding out method. Like in nutrition, they say, if you don't want to eat junk food, eat more of the good stuff. In this case, if you want to have a well-balanced, holistic lifestyle that includes lots of nature time, moving your body, getting fresh air, sunshine, drinking water, eating healthy meals, and all this kind of stuff, then just have that as part of the conversation. Like, hey, honey, I noticed when you're in front of the computer a long time, your neck is all stiff and you look kind of glassy-eyed, cross-eyed, and maybe, what do you think? Maybe we can schedule more nature time or other activities to balance it out. And you guys probably have heard of Dana Martin. She's a big unschooling pioneer. So I see her as quite a pioneer and one of my teachers and mentors. I draw a lot of inspiration from the way that she articulates this stuff. And one of the things that she says about technology is like, for some reason, we still live in a book-loving culture. Like if our kids is like in their room reading book after book after book, somehow we think that's more okay than if they're in front of the computer watching possibly quite educational videos, but we're like, oh my God, is it too much screen time? So she's like, let's not use the term screen time, because can you imagine that if you told your child, that's it, you've had enough paper time? Like that would be silly. So how about we just have a conversation like, hey, honey, it seems like it's time to take a break from whatever you're doing in there and go outside. Let's get some fresh air and sunshine. Let's, are you hungry, honey? Let's eat a meal together, you know?
Dr. Edith, or Amanda, I was going to say, it's a son in 10th grade, correct? Okay. So that's one of the things is it is really hard. It's very, and my daughter too is in the same situation. She left her school. She's having class mostly online, and she too is the computer starts to pull their spirit away. So it's a very strong pull. So I completely understand what that is like and how to come about it sometimes when they are getting to be a teen, and to be able to talk in ways of let's go out in nature, because they're really trying to get their wings and get away. So it's a very tricky thing, but I do think that that intention, what you're talking about tonight, is really like the way to always approach it and make sure you approach it. But we could go on to Amanda. You could go ahead and unmute. I'm sorry, Alexandra.
Hey, good evening.
Oh,
thank you very much. This is this is wonderful.
great.
Can you hear me, guys?
I'm glad you made it.
It's a little bit choppy, but I
Yeah,
think we
there's.
can link together.
Are you? Let's see. Where are you coming in from?
I'm from Santa Barbara
Okay.
County, but I'm using my cell phone, and my reception seems a little choppy.
Okay, it's better
apologize.
now.
Okay. So it's interesting. I'm originally from Germany, but I'm living in California since 2009, and I gave birth to my son in 2015, and we decided on homeschooling. And because I come from a country where it's illegal, it was the fear-based homeschooling. So I appreciate you talking about this, because this is where I come in from. And now I changed my career, and I teach mindfulness and meditation to kids at a school, at a tutoring center where homeschool kids go. And they still have certain curriculums which I don't agree with. But the beautiful thing is with mindfulness and what I learned from you and from other sources, this is very helpful. The other thought I have is I also take parenting classes due to my own trauma, whatever. And I do think that the unschooling and there is a certain need as a parent for parenting classes, for parenting educational groups. You know, like it takes a village to raise a child, and this is necessary, I think. So your education with parenting, schooling, and parenting education would be wonderful, if I may add to this.
Yeah, thank you. It really can't be a separate conversation anymore,
No.
right? Like historically, we're like, oh, this is like alternative education and this is conscious parenting. It all needs to be woven together into a new paradigm of village life now. Like all of that is contiguous, you know? Yeah.
Yeah, thank you very much. So if you have any more education on this, I would love to, because I think Kapinteria, the village I come from, is very interested. And I have more parents who are searching for something, and I have discussions and exchanges where this is very necessary at the time.
Yeah, thank you. So check out Luminous Education or luminousrevolution.com. The whole thing is Luminous Education Revolution is the program, is an 18-session journey that really dives deep into each of these pieces and is rich with the soulful inner work component as well as the outer strategy. And yeah, I think you'll love it.
Thank you very much. Thank you. And everyone else who's joining this, thank you very much for doing the work. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Maria, did you want to go ahead?
Yes, thank you. Thank you so much, Dr. Edith. That is wonderful.
Yay, it's Maria. Hello.
Hi. And I mean, though I hope if anyone else needs, because I have a different kind of inquiry in terms of because I'm working with kids and I'm working with families, but that they're not in that conscious level or like that understanding, or like they're in the public systems of the school. And I wonder your thoughts around supporting kids still who don't have that option, or it's not part of their lives, that option of unschooling or not, but still the things that can be done. Like it's my heart, like I cannot give up on anyone. My heart, like for me, it's like I'm trying to see how even I can create spaces of oases for kids and families within these, and I see it all the time with the kids at work, how they slowly can start connect again to that light.
Yes.
I just was wondering about your thoughts around that, or working with or supporting kids who don't have that option, like the parents who can have more. I hope it's clear.
Yeah, I hear you. And we do the best with what we've got at this moment. But long term, what I see happening is that those of us that are in this consciousness of this group, we birth these new paradigm educational solutions, and we have these places that are kind of like homeschool enrichment learning centers, and we have such a beautiful community, and we trade our fruits and vegetables and chicken eggs, and our families all support each other's businesses, and this is a very stable kind of village energy, which then we can absorb more of the fallout from the old system. So we do need to choose wisely to build these solutions. And let's say we have education learning village kind of education enrichment center. We can open it up to anybody. They don't have to all be in our freedom families. Like we can choose as a community, hey, let's open it up to the greater community. And then these kids will come there and be like, whoa, like they're all smiley and they're not afraid of their own bodies, and they're so like centered and strong and healthy, and they never like get sick, and what is up with that? And they're so smart, and they're entrepreneurial, and they're creative, and that will infuse and infect the rest of the community with this new energy. But first, I think we need to take care of building these solutions first so that they're strong and stable to be able to absorb the rest of the fallout from the old system. One of our speakers in the Luminous Education series of the 18 sessions, 2 of the sessions is with a very special lady named Penny Kelly. And Penny is, I don't know if you guys have heard of Penny Kelly. She wrote a very popular book called The Robes that I recommend highly because it'll give context to this rapid time of societal change that we're going through right now. Penny is in her 70s, and back in 1980, she was, I think, in her early 30s back then. She was a mom with 4 kids, and she had a spontaneous Kundalini spiritual awakening experience. And out of this awakening, these beings that were dressed in little brown robes, that's why the book's called The Robes, came to visit her and showed her rapid sequences through a series of visits, all the rapid changes that are to come in 2020, 2030, 2040, 2050, 2080, and then ultimately 2413. So she was shown this time of rapid change. And I don't know if it will actually come to pass exactly like she was shown, but a lot of the things in her book, which was published in the early 1990s, have already come to pass. And so she was pretty accurate for most of it. So in her vision, she was shown that by the year 2040, the entire public school system has already collapsed. By that time, nobody thinks it's safe to keep your kids in that kind of system. It takes about a decade, this current decade that we're in, for more and more of the mainstream to be like, what are they doing with the kids? That seems really extreme. They indoctrinating what? Like they're having, drag queens dance and tell story times to the young kids, and they're telling the kids to, be all politically divisive and all these things that we're like, I'm not sure that that's the education that's right for my family. More people are waking up to these things. Until by the end of this decade, it becomes mainstream. And then by 2040, the whole system completely collapses. So if that's roughly the timeline, we better get to work. We need to build these solutions. We need to build the communities, and we need to raise our teens in this beautiful way that you guys are doing so that they can also help to raise some of the younger kids and help collaborate and co-create these new learning village experiences where we mentor each other, mixed age groups, and do projects and mentor and apprenticeship, and we learn and grow together as beautiful villages. We really need to get to work to build these solutions right now.
We've had 2 million students leave the system in the last 2 years. So in my area, we've had just one school district had about 500 students pulled out, and it's not that big of a district. So people are waking up. And so we do need to get busy because there's a lot to work to do. And it's going to be hard to get people out of this old paradigm. I mean, people are so sleepy. I don't know how you don't know the truth. I feel like you have to be, like, I don't know how you don't know, but people just are asleep. So,
well, it is encouraging that when you say how many students are leaving and parents taking their kids out. So there is this hope of people waking up a bit. And it is frustrating to see that it takes some time. So
so to whomever asked the question, her name is Penny Kelly, PNNYKELLY. And you can also look up her information on the Luminous Revolution website. And the book is called The Robes.
If you want,
there's education kind of like what is it called? I think they call it a co-working space for self-directed young learners or something like that, mainly for kids like 5 to 12, for younger kids. But I think it's in Georgia, maybe outside of Atlanta, if I remember correctly. I heard a podcast with the people that started this thing called Moonrise. And it's like a co-working space for young people where they have, like music station and woodworking station and technology station and all this stuff. And the adults, they don't do much. They just support and facilitate whatever projects the kids want to come in and do. And you get a membership at this place. And I recall in this podcast, the founder of this space specifically said, we want to keep this space open 9 a.m. to 9 p.m. because we purposefully want our homeschoolers and self-directed kids to mix and mingles with the schooly kids, so that we can infuse and infect the schooly kids with like, hey, this is cool. Look how rad, like all these projects, they're so creative and innovative, and they're so smiley and free, and they're well rested because they're not dragged out of bed before they, are ready, and they can eat and sleep and pee pee and poo poo when their body rhythms is asking for it. And they're like a different kind of human. And so that peer group influence will actually influence the schooly kids, be like, maybe I should ask my parents if I can do this. Like, we need more just role modeling and examples in the community. And we can't philosophize about this. We just have to do it and show the example to the world.
Yeah.
That's great, Dr. Chan. And I just want to say that you have been cymatics tonight, because you have raised my vibration into a new pattern just listening to you. So
Yeah.
I really appreciate you being able to do this talk tonight and speak from your heart, and to raise the vibration for us to all look at the world in a different way. And definitely we all understand that we need to make these changes. And so we're just so grateful to have someone like you to kick off this whole parent series, and to have such great energy to go forward with the series and trying to help the parents find ways to have better tools, as we'll try in this like really tricky, and especially the teens. I think we wanted to focus on the teens as you know, Amanda, and everyone here who has a teen, it's a tough one. So I thank you so much. And if there's anyone else that wanted to ask anything.
I see Alexandra has her hand up.
I think Alexandra left her hand up. Alexandra, did you still have a question?
I think she asked it already.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah,
I think
yeah.
she
I
just,
apologize. I left my hand up. I apologize.
no worries.
But this is so beautiful. Thank you very much. Penny Kelly, I'm honored right now.
And I think,
Randy?
I'm not sure. I think Penelope was saying that we might try to have another discussion from this group with Dr. Chan. We'll talk about that, and maybe we'll make a connection if there's more questions. And we could, let's see, we could, if you do have questions, I think Judy's here. I think she might be the one that we could, do we have any contact? If you have any contacts, I'll put my information in the, if you have any questions, you could ask me, and I could pass it along. So I will just put in my information.
Randy, thank you for your comment. Did you want to share anything before we say bye?
Let's see. Oh, there, I can unmute. I just wanted to say thank you so much. I'm not a parent, but I'm an educator, and I have worked with children, coaching gymnastics, teaching dance, and have once started out having a dream to start an intuitive arts-based school. So I didn't follow with that because it turned into something else, but it's really beautiful to see you out there shining your light and educating people on all these different facets, because there's so much of us. Like, I like to use the metaphor that we're a mansion within. So there's just all these beautiful floors and these 100 rooms of consciousness that we all have to explore, and to change our education system into a place where children can really truly blossom into themselves. Like, it just, this whole conversation just gives me so much joy. You know, college wasn't an option for me. I went to a very strict all girls, great, wonderful high school, but I was in the box. Even at Berkeley, in the box. I went to law school, in the box. Like, I never felt like I belonged. And I think that what you're doing is going to change the world, all of you here. And it's so important. It's so important. I'm full of gratitude, really.
Yeah, likewise. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. As an educator, we want people like you to be around the future generation. So thank you.
Thank you. I'm going to stick my website down for you guys all to take a look at when you get a chance, because I think you'll like it. And Dr. Chan, I do want to send a book that we published through our organization. I've seen you before, actually, at the 10-Toed Summit. I heard you, and you inspired me then. So I'll just send you an email at the address that you gave me, and hopefully I can just get an address to send that out to you.
Yeah, let's stay in contact. Awesome.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Okay, great. I think we're all had an amazing evening, and it's probably everyone's pretty tired. I don't know who's the furthest away. Who's on the East Coast? Anyone here? No? Okay. Anyways, it's getting pretty late, and it's been an amazing evening. So I'm going to thank everyone, and there is going to be a recording. I'm not sure how we're handling that. I'll have to ask Penelope. And I just thank you so much for joining us on an evening when you could have done a lot of different other things. And thank you, Dr. Chan. And I guess we'll just either connect with you, and that if anyone has questions with the parent series, you can connect with me with my email. Okay. Thank you all.
Thank you.
Have a great evening, everyone.